35 millimeter 2391,
Dolby,
70 millimeter 2.21,
IMAX,
191, Dolby 1.851,
the largest format,
GT laser
IMAX 70,
1.431.
Don't try to understand it.
Let me explain.
Hi, I'm Jazz Tangcay,
I'm Kizu.
Senior Artisans Editor of Variety.
I'm an entertainment journalist.
And
I'm
was
a
a
Tomatometer-approved
critic.
And I am a massive Christopher Nolan fan.
We are here today to talk about one of the greatest directors right now, and his name is Christopher Nolan, and we are all eagerly counting down to his latest movie, which is an adaptation of Homer's classic, The Odyssey.
A Christopher Nolan movie, we have all these signatures that we think of. Nonlinear structure, an interest in time, in death and grief, guilt.
I love how his movies are very cerebral, and they are for sure conversation pieces.
Ever since Interstellar, and I learn about IMAX 70 millimeter, Nolan has been my guy.
The way he tells stories, a lot of his films are never linear, and you think about his movies long after the credits have rolled.
For all these things we know of a Christopher Nolan movie, I think the most exciting thing is that he's still defining it himself. He envisions the world as a physical, tangible, material object, as things you can touch and feel. And that doesn't necessarily preclude cyclopses.
So before we get to The Odyssey, let's take a look back at Christopher Nolan's career.
Let's go all the way back to his first feature film, Following. So this is a micro budget, reportedly $6,000 film that Christopher Nolan shot on the weekends while he had a day job. I believe it was 16 millimeter black and white, and it is a non-linear film. It's about a writer who follows strangers trying to come up with subjects for his first novel, and then he falls into the criminal underworld of one of the strangers that he follows. A lot of people point to it as a harbinger of Nolan's nonlinear structures, of his interests in spying on people, in guilt. I think one of the more interesting things about Following is that it's a prediction of who he is as a producer. He had to be very nimble with this film, shooting on weekends, doing a bunch of rehearsal to make sure they could do only 1 or 2 takes to save money on the production. And so I think that this really predicts where Nolan goes, as far as he has a reputation now for being on time, under budget. And so that's his producerial skill. And I think that's what Following kind of predicts.
Okay, so Memento, I remember, I didn't see it in 2000. I saw it after it was released. And this backward, forward narrative, it goes back to the dual storyline that he has going on with Guy Pearce.
A lot of people remember this as the backwards film, but really, Chris Nolan has talked about this, it's what he calls a hairpin film, where the film is running backwards and forwards at the same time, and the ending is really the middle of the story.
I revisited it actually the other day before this conversation, and it just holds up. And I do think it's one of his best films. I rank it definitely in my top 5 of all time Christopher Nolan movies. I just love the use of the black and white with the color, which he uses again later on in his career.
The inception of Memento came on a notorious car ride between Jonathan Nolan and Christopher Nolan from Chicago to LA as Chris was moving to Los Angeles. And Jonathan Nolan, his brother, told him the idea for a short story about a guy who can't create new memories. And it hooked Chris Nolan immediately. It's really a telltale sign of what's to come with the Nolan brother collaboration.
This is the film that put his name out there. I think people started paying attention to him as a filmmaker. Looking back, you can start to see some of his signature moments in this film that have carried on throughout his career.
There's something very intellectual about Memento that works. It's pulled off. But there's a level that he's yet to unlock, and that's still to come. So Insomnia is really Nolan's break into the studios. Nolan has said that he wanted to do Insomnia, which is a remake of a Norwegian film, because he was watching the Norwegian film and he imagined, if you take this idea, put it in Hollywood, cast 2 movie stars, you can almost have a Heat, a Michael Mann's Heat kind of movie. But it shows that he can maneuver in the system. He can make a good movie that can make money at the box office. Memento proves that he has good ideas. Insomnia proves that he can work the system.
You're trying to impress me, Finch, because you got the wrong guy.
I think in between Insomnia and Batman Begins is one of the most fascinating moments of Christopher Nolan's career. It was announced a long time ago, but it was refreshed recently that he was actually hired to direct Troy, which is an adaptation of Homer's The Iliad. And Troy was developed by Wolfgang Petersen, and the story goes, according to rumors and reports, he was hired to direct Troy. Wolfgang Petersen was developing a Batman versus Superman movie for Warner Brothers. And then that movie gets scrapped for whatever reason, and Wolfgang Petersen, according to Nolan himself, wants Troy back. And so Wolfgang Petersen gets Troy. That turns out how it turns out. And then Nolan really finds his path to Batman. He finally gets his big franchise. He gets Batman Begins.
When Christopher Nolan took on Batman Begins, he really took the crime genre and the comic book genre and kind of turned it on its head. Christian Bale's Batman is so dark. You can feel like the tragedy that happened to him as a child.
This movie has been talked about so much that it feels a little strange to say more. I mean, obviously, it revolutionized what superhero films could do. I think a lot of that actually has more to do with The Dark Knight than Batman Begins. I think you don't get that turn without The Dark Knight as well. But Batman Begins is the starting point, and it starts to define Nolan as we know him. The Prestige is on my top 5 favorite Nolan films. I think it is, for the lack of a better phrase, a magic trick. Nolan and his brother Jonathan Nolan pull off something structurally mind-blowing with The Prestige. And I think it's a masterful piece of screenwriting. I think something we've sort of lost sight of over time is how good of a writer Christopher Nolan is. A lot of the nonlinear structures, a lot of the editing choices are made at the screenplay level. The Prestige is his first movie where it's a father trying to get back to his kid, which becomes a huge element of the rest of his career. And The Prestige is actually Nolan's first tiptoe into IMAX 70mm. The Dark Knight is his first IMAX 70mm release, but actually Nolan used an IMAX 70mm camera to test and do one shot in The Prestige. And so this is crucial for where he goes next.
The Dark Knight, first of all, it holds up. Heath Ledger is phenomenal as the Joker.
No matter what you think of Nolan, no matter what you think of The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger's performance is totemic. It is a pillar in the history of film. It almost feels wrong to give it adjectives. It is lived in, breathed in. It is madness. It is chaos.
One scene that I really love from this film is when Heath Ledger's Joker leaves the hospital and blows it up. And that whole sequence was just It wasn't done on a green screen. It's a practical effect. I remember seeing this in the movie theater and it has stuck with me. Like, what is it? My maths is terrible, but almost like 20 years later.
And he wins the Oscar posthumously. And I think rightfully so, it is one of the great performances of all time.
It is an incredible film, incredible production design, incredible storytelling, the sound, the tension that he delivers in this film. I alternate between it being 1 and 2, depending on my mood, between this and Inception, but it's definitely like top tier Christopher Nolan.
I mean, I think favorite lists are always fluid. And if you asked me this 10 years ago, Dark Knight might be number 1. But we're clearly in a post-superhero age, and that's not a knock against The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is fantastic to this day.
The score by Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard, you have somebody who's synonymous with electronic, and then you have James Newton Howard, who is very orchestral. You put those two together, and again, this is a testament to Christopher Nolan having an incredible group of artisans with him. That really was a sound that added to the tension of the movie.
The Dark Knight is a crime epic. It's a metropolis epic, I'd like to call it. I think that's where IMAX 70mm really comes in this film. It adds a thematic element to where you're viewing these superheroes, these politicians, these villains on a 60-foot by 80-foot screen, and they are larger than life. They are superheroes. They are as tall as the towers in Chicago, which was used to film Gotham.
So with The Dark Knight, he used IMAX cameras. He didn't use it for all of the movie. His decision to use that and subsequently using it, that really makes his movies like such a cinematic event. And obviously the sound is incredible, but it's what we see visually. And it's something that we don't get at home. You know, you can have the best sound system at home, but you don't have IMAX at home or like an IMAX screen. And just how that feels in a movie theater is unmatched. And then, you know, we see it again in Dunkirk. We see it again in Oppenheimer. We see it throughout his career where he starts using IMAX cameras more and more. Oh my God, Inception. Okay, I remember still living in London and seeing this, and I studied film and I watched this film and I was like, I really love it. This is so fascinating. Leonardo DiCaprio is so good in this, but I watched it and was like, I'm really confused. I don't know what happened. I need to see this again.
When I think of Inception, I think of the rotating hallway fight. I think that is the earliest moment in Christopher Nolan's filmography where I am completely enraptured in something I never thought I would see on screen. Now, obviously, that hallway fight has roots in 2001: A Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick, who used a rotating set, but it is truly its own thing. I mean, I dare anyone to watch Inception, see that hallway fight, and not think that movies rock.
I think this is one of his best films. We have yet to see the Odyssey, so this could change on July 17. It's one of the many films of his that I will always recommend. I'm like, this is your entry into Christopher Nolan. Go watch Inception. Again, the score, very tense. Hans Zimmer did that.
I think it's a sneakily underrated Leonardo DiCaprio performance. I think that DiCaprio mines depths and channels certain emotions that are really, really impressive.
With Christopher Nolan, his films are very cerebral. They're not your typical Hollywood, I'm gonna spell this out for you from A to Z. I think the things that you can learn from him, just how he challenges the typical narrative, how he uses his artisans to create tension, his whole world building. It's like so many times, you know, we see directors be like, okay, we're just going to use a green screen and do that. He really builds immersive worlds.
The Dark Knight Rises. I love it. I love it. I thought it was great when it came out. I still think it's great for different reasons. I think it is a ridiculous film, but so fun. Bane is not in the same sentence as the Joker, but Bane kind of occupies this cinematic space of, I can't believe they did this, and I can't believe it kind of works. I can't believe Bane sounds like that, and yet it's awesome.
You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it.
You know, to each their own. I think it's fun. I think there's space to open your heart and have fun with Bane.
Thank you.
Even more so than The Dark Knight, The Dark Knight Rises is a quote-unquote metropolis epic. It is a city epic. I mean, the scope and scale of it is awe-inspiring. And it's really a massive, massive moment for IMAX 70mm because they actually had around 100 prints of IMAX 70mm for The Dark Knight Rises. And so it was all over the place, and so many people got to see it in the format. And it was a really special time. For a long time, Interstellar was the top of the heap. It was the first critical wobble on a notable scale for Nolan. I mean, a lot of people really did not like this movie, but for a certain generation of people, of which I'm a part of, this was a touchstone. I mean, it is, as of June 1st, 2026, it is the film on Letterboxd with the most fans, which is the most people putting it in their top 4 favorites. And so clearly this film resonated with a whole generation of people. It was probably the first time a lot of them saw a film on IMAX 70mm, which for a space movie, IMAX 70mm, I mean, it's what it's made for. IMAX has been doing space documentaries for a long, long time. I mean, this movie, it really started out with producer Linda Obst and Caltech physicist Kip Thorne writing a treatment on the way that real physics might inform a Hollywood film. And that treatment made its way to Steven Spielberg. And Steven Spielberg was actually the first director attached to Interstellar. And Spielberg hired Christopher Nolan's brother, Jonathan Nolan. And then for whatever reason, Spielberg exited and Christopher Nolan came on, and he combined Jonathan Nolan's draft with his own script that he was working on at the time. And that's the film we got today, which is really a love letter to his daughter. I think it is Hans Zimmer's most beautiful score. I mean, there's that famous story between Hans and Chris of how Chris gave Hans a 1-page story about, I believe, what it means to be a father. He didn't have the genre in it. He didn't say it was a space film. He didn't say anything. It was just musings on being a father. And Chris Nolan said, go and write me a theme based on that. And Hans came back with this theme that then really unlocked the emotionality of the film for Christopher Nolan. And that whole score is beautiful. It's my favorite score of his to this day.
Let's get into Dunkirk.
My favorite Christopher Nolan movie is Dunkirk.
I really love Dunkirk. As you can tell, I'm a Brit, and I really love movies set during the First World War, Second World War. I heard about Dunkirk, through history. I didn't know anything about it. Cue Christopher Nolan. What he does is he tells this story through 3 different perspectives: land, sea, and air. There is not a lot of dialogue in this, but you are so emotionally attached to what we're seeing on screen. Again, it's Hans Zimmer's score with this ticking that is really driving the anxiety of what these men are going through on this beach. I don't think I breathed through that entire movie. From that first frame to the last, I was holding my breath the entire time.
Chris Nolan has always been interested in cross-cutting action, in parallel momentum. You see it in Dark Knight Rises, you see it in Interstellar, you see it in Inception, of course. It's almost literalized in Inception as cross-cutting action across the different dream levels. But I think Dunkirk is the culmination of that. He calls the screenplay a mirror of the musical illusion called the shepherd's tone, which he first played with his composers in The Prestige, and then he used it again for the Joker theme in The Dark Knight. And then he really hones in on it in Dunkirk, and it becomes the structure of the screenplay itself, where these three timelines are peaking just as another is halfway, just as another is beginning. And so the emotional experience of watching it is a never-ending, relentless onslaught of tension.
What also adds to this is he works with his cinematographer Hoyte van Hoytema, and they shot a lot of those scenes using an IMAX camera. Truly powerful and really immersive. You literally feel like you are in that film with these characters.
In Dunkirk, they almost use IMAX 70mm like a GoPro. They put it on Hoyte van Hoytema's shoulders, and he's running on the beaches with these soldiers and straps them to planes, and they put them on real boats on the real ocean, on the English Channel. And it was really a moment where Nolan, I think personally, sort of unlocks another level of IMAX 70mm. I mean, he's used it for action. He's used it for the magnificence of the universe in Interstellar. But I think there are shots in Dunkirk. He's almost channeling the surreal with it. It's the psychology of what it might be in an airplane. And I think that really bleeds into his next film.
When they strapped the IMAX camera to the boats, to the airplanes in Dunkirk, when he's telling these stories from different character or different point of views, it really does enhance that experience. It really puts you in that character's shoes, so you really feel every frame, every moment, every emotion.
Tenet. I think Tenet was hampered by the pandemic. A lot of people think that Tenet is a quote-unquote vibes movie. They say just roll with it. They quote the line in the movie, don't think about it, just feel it. And I think I admire that perspective. I can't get all the way there with that perspective, but I admire it because I first saw the film at home, obviously. It was the pandemic. And then I saw it in IMAX 70mm when it was reissued, I believe 2 years ago. I think Tenet has the best action holistically in the film of Nolan's career. He unlocked a physical surrealism, a physical derangement almost, a physical displacement with IMAX action with Tenet, where, for example, the Russian fight in the city at the end, the objective in that scene is to find the bomb, disarm it. Pretty simple. And so the whole time, you're just seeing surrealistic imagery of buildings blowing up and then coming back down, and people, soldiers getting trapped in walls backwards, and just this mess of like a Hieronymus Bosch hellscape of inventive imagery after imagery. It is not plot driven, it is image driven. And I admire that quite a bit. I think it's a fun movie. I'm close to buying it as a vibes movie.
Okay, so here we are at Oppenheimer. This is the film that finally put him on the map at the Academy Awards. So overdue. The film won Best Picture. Christopher Nolan won Best Director. Robert Downey Jr., Cillian Murphy, the crafts, his artisans won, and it was so deserved. Oppenheimer tells the story of J. Robert Oppenheimer, the man known as the father of the atomic bomb. Again, he uses black and white to tell the story from one perspective, and then he uses color to tell another story. And he really puts us inside the head of our titular character, Oppenheimer.
There had never been black and white IMAX film before. And because, like Memento, Chris Nolan wanted one timeline in color, one in black and white, He needed black and white IMAX film, and he challenged IMAX to do it. And they stepped up to the plate and they got it done. And it is wild to see such dark blacks and shades of gray on a big screen. And I think it really plays into character, the black and white.
Again, he worked with his collaborator, Hoyte van Hoytema. It is truly a spectacular film to see on the big screen. For his score, he used composer Ludwig Göransson, who also went on to win the Oscars, so he switched away from Hans Zimmer. But, Ludwig brought his touch to it, but still there's that tension and anxiety that has become Christopher Nolan's signature marks in storytelling.
It's all about the close-up in Oppenheimer. It's all about that shot on Cillian Murphy's face, where we are inches away and we see him grappling with what he's done to the world, with the course he's set the world on. And so I think that's a really important moment in Christopher Nolan's career, because it shows us things he's not yet done. To really realize a format's potential in a narrative film, everything is about character, everything is about a character's arc, what they're going through, their emotional realities, their psychology, their guilt. And so, if you don't have the IMAX close-up, Oppenheimer it's not even a film. It doesn't work without the IMAX close-up. We need those moments where we are looking at 80-foot tall, 100-foot wide Cillian Murphy, and we understand the projection of what he's done to the world with nuclear weapons. That shot at the end of Oppenheimer where he is staring at the lake and he tells Einstein, I think we've created the world where it is a snowball effect and it won't stop until we blow it all up. That is a wrenching, dark moment, and it makes the film work. I've thought this for a long time, but finally it's understood that the people want IMAX. The people want to see things on IMAX 70mm.
No one could stand between me and home. Not even the gods. Keep us straight!
So The Odyssey will be the first film that's ever been shot entirely in IMAX from beginning to end. It is a big deal. It's never been done before. And who better to do it than Christopher Nolan, telling one of the greatest classics of all time, Homer's The Odyssey.
Christopher Nolan has said that he wanted to use IMAX cameras ever since he was 16, and he went to see an aviation documentary on IMAX. And as the planes with the IMAX cameras tilted, the whole audience tilted with it. And that effect stuck with Nolan. And he dreamed ever since of using it on a Hollywood feature. And so when he started to use it for The Dark Knight, obviously he was the first. No one had ever done it before. And so it is a special thing that this is happening because IMAX cameras are massive. IMAX cameras are the largest film format ever devised. It is the highest quality you will see in a movie theater. I've got these nifty things here to give you a sense of the different film stocks. We have 35mm here.
35mm film. It is a classic format. It's got 4 perforations and runs vertically through the projector.
You will see the more or less standard scope of 2:3:9:1, and that will also be the aspect ratio for the regular standard digital showings, which I think are both great ways to see the movie as well. We have 70mm here. You can see it's a good bit bigger than 35.
It's a large format film, as you can see. It also offers a bright and clear image, up to 3 times the resolution of standard digital projection formats.
It is a 2.21 aspect ratio, which is more or less standard for 70mm. And then we have the gargantuan IMAX 70mm here, which actually runs horizontally through the projector. And IMAX 70mm is about 9 times the size of 35 millimeter.
And what this does is this fills your entire field of vision from floor to ceiling screen. If you go to a lot of movie theaters, you have an IMAX option, and as you walk in, you'll see how large that screen is.
The IMAX 70mm, captured on IMAX 70mm cameras, projected in an IMAX 70mm theater with the square aspect ratio, that is 1.431. That is the full square, the full image, and Odyssey will fill the screen entirely for the whole runtime. And that is really what Nolan calls the 3D without the glasses.
It is the largest format and most immersive format to see the film in.
You'll get that in 41 IMAX 70mm screens for the Odyssey. You'll also get that in a handful of what's called GT laser screens, which are IMAX digital systems that are designed to be able to project that aspect ratio on those types of screens. And now many other IMAX screens exist around the world, and most of them are 191. They are expanded from normal, but to 1.91. And so a lot of folks will get to see what's called 26% more image than normal on those screens.
It's also going to be released in Dolby and premium large format.
For Dolby, there are actually 2 versions of the movie depending on your Dolby screen. And so if your Dolby screen is designed for 2.21, you'll get 2.21. But some Dolby screens are designed for 1.851. And on those screens, you will see that aspect ratio for the Odyssey. And so it will be a little closer to the IMAX 1.91.
So as we know, IMAX 70mm is the format to go see it in, but it's also one of the hardest tickets to get. So if you can't get that, go see it anywhere in any format. It's going to be an epic.
And I just want to make clear, none of this is sponsored by IMAX. We're not sponsored by the Odyssey. I am a fan. I believe in this format deeply.
It's a huge deal because people who might have never been interested in seeing the Odyssey are, as we know from ticket sales, they crashed the AMC and Fandango site. This is really going to be a once in a lifetime experience. I think we're going to see more directors do this.
I have 3 tickets.
Got my tickets. I have tickets to see this film.
I'm excited. I think we'll have a lot to discover about Nolan in the Odyssey, about where his thematic interests are going next. I mean, I have worries, but I mean, as with the pure existence of this film, you just can't know anything until you see it.
What am I expecting? I mean, he's got the best cast, all-star artisans behind the scenes. How can you not be excited for a Christopher Nolan film of this scale?
So those are my thoughts on Christopher Nolan's career and my favorite Nolan movies. What are your thoughts?
Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll see you at the movies.